Okay, what if I told you that a 2,500-year-old Chinese text, what if it held a description of our universe's fundamental laws? And I mean a shockingly accurate one. Well, today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're diving in and decoding an ancient cosmic code, trying to find the hidden physics in the poetry of Lao Tzu. And it all kicks off with this verse from the Tao Te Ching. Now, at first glance, yeah, it totally sounds like some beautiful, mystical poetry. But, and this is the crazy part, as we're about to find out, pretty much every single line seems to map onto some of the deepest ideas in modern physics. We're talking everything from the quantum world all the way to the ultimate fate of the cosmos itself. So that really is the big question, isn't it? Is this just some 2,500-year-old poetry? Or is it something more? Could it be a blueprint for the cosmos? Did Lao Tzu somehow, sense the physical rules of reality? All right, let's get into it. First up, let's tackle that whole idea of the empty vessel. See, for Lao Tzu, the real power, the greatest power in the universe, wasn't in all this stuff you can see. It was in what you can't see. And he had these amazing, just brilliant everyday examples to explain this. Think about a wheel. What makes it work? It's not the spokes, right? It's the empty hole in the center that lets it turn. Or a clay pot. It's only useful because of the empty space inside that holds things. So for Lao Tzu, all the good stuff, function, usefulness, potential, it all comes from this nothingness. Okay, and this is where my mind just gets blown, because this ancient idea perfectly lines up with modern physics. You see, we now know that empty space isn't empty at all, not even close. It's this bubbling, seething sea of energy called the quantum vacuum. It's a place where particles are literally popping in and out of existence all the time. It's the real source of everything. This is just such a perfect parallel. It's incredible. Lao Tzu says the Tao is an empty vessel that's used but never filled. Basically, it's a source that never runs out. And what does physics tell us about the quantum vacuum? That it has, for all practical purposes, infinite energy. You could pull a big bang out of it, create countless galaxies, and it would never, ever run dry. Sound familiar? An unfathomable source of 10,000 things. Wow. All right, so it really seems like Lao Tzu nailed the whole source of the universe thing. Pretty amazing. But what about how it all works? How does it all run? Let's look at the next part of the verse, because it starts to sound a lot like a guide to cosmic energy management. Now, this next line is probably one of the most famous in the entire Tao Te Ching. And, for centuries, people have read this as a moral lesson, like, be humble, don't be flashy, keep your head down. But what if it's not just about us? What if it's describing a fundamental law of physics? Let's try reading this again, but with a cosmic mindset. What is sharpness or glare in physics terms? Well, they're just intense spikes of energy, right? Think of a star exploding, a supernova, or just the searing heat of a star. Heck, even on a human level, you could think of the frictional heat that comes off a massive ego. And according to Lao Tzu, the universe has a way of dealing with all that intense energy. And guess what? That built-in mechanism has a name in physics. It's called entropy. You might have heard of it. It's the second law of thermodynamics. And really, all it says is that energy is kind of lazy. It doesn't like being all bunched up and concentrated. It wants to spread out, to chill, to smooth itself out across the cosmos. It's always moving from order to disorder. And you can see this principle in action everywhere, from the super simple to the mind-bogglingly huge. I mean, look at this. On one side, you've got the textbook example, gas in a box just naturally spreading out to fill up the whole space. But on the other side, well, that's the same exact principle playing out on a cosmic scale. We're seeing the early universe where these tiny ripples in an empty field expanded to become the enormous, mostly uniform universe we see today. Both are just entropy doing its thing, spreading everything out. So this is basically the entire life story of our universe, told through the lens of entropy. It all starts with the Big Bang, this tiny point of super concentrated energy, very low entropy. Then stars and galaxies start to form, and that energy begins to disperse. It begins to soften the glare. Fast forward trillions of years, galaxies are drifting apart, stars are dying out, even black holes are slowly evaporating away. And the final chapter, the universe reaches maximum entropy. It becomes a cold, quiet, uniform sea of particles. It will have, in Lao Tzu's words, merged with the dust. Which brings us to the last part of this verse. And honestly, this might be the most radical, most profound idea of all. Lao Tzu is about to suggest that this entire cosmic system runs on a law that's older and way more fundamental than any god. So he says,
hidden deep, but ever present. Think about that. He's talking about some kind of force, or maybe a field, that you can't see, but its effects are absolutely everywhere. He's honest. He says, I do not know from where it comes. But then he drops this bombshell. It is the forefather of the emperors.
I mean, does that not sound exactly like our modern search for dark matter and dark energy? We're talking about these mysterious, invisible things that make up something like 95% of our universe. We have no idea what they are or where they came from. All we can do is see their effects, holding galaxies together, pushing the universe apart. They are quite literally hidden deep, but ever present. So to really get this, you have to understand who the emperor was in Lao Tzu's time. He's not talking about a human ruler. He's talking about the emperor of heaven, this personal creator god figure who would judge people and throw down lightning bolts. And Lao Tzu looked at the universe, at this elegant, predictable system, and basically said, nope, the real boss, the one that came before everything else, is this impersonal, eternal, physical law. Physics comes before mythology. That is a huge statement for someone to make 2,500 years ago.
Wow. Okay, so we've just gone on this wild ride from a few lines of ancient poetry all the way to the heat death of the universe. So, what's the takeaway? What does any of this mean for us, in our actual lives? How do we use this cosmic code? Well, here's a totally mind-bending idea from physics. We usually think of life as a force for order, right? We fight against chaos, we build complex things. But some scientists are now saying, what if it's the opposite? What if life is actually the universe's best tool for increasing disorder? Think about it. We are amazing at taking concentrated energy, like sunlight or the food we eat, and turning it into scattered, low-grade heat. We're actually speeding up entropy. So if we want to align ourselves with this cosmic flow, what do we do? It's really about living by this cosmic algorithm. Soften your glare. That's about your ego. When you're in an argument and you feel that heat rising because you just have to be right, that's your glare. Softening it means choosing to listen instead. Untangle the knots. When you're faced with some chaotic mess, don't just charge in. Step back. Find one little thread and gently pull. Let the chaos untangle itself. And merging with the dust? That's all about absorbing friction instead of creating it. You know when someone cuts you off in traffic? The gut reaction is to lay on the horn, right? To add more chaotic, angry energy into the system. Merging with the dust means just letting it go. Absorb that little spike of energy without bouncing it back. And look, this isn't about being a pushover. It's pure physics. High energy states are unstable. The things that last, the most stable things in the entire universe, are the ones in the ground state, the lowest possible energy state. So maybe we can find that in our own lives by choosing a bit more stillness over the constant hustle. It's about finding a more sustainable way to be. And that kind of leaves us with one last big question to chew on. The entire universe, everything in it, is on this long, slow path towards a perfectly quiet, frictionless state. So if that's where it's all headed anyway, what are we all rushing around for?